so let's kick this off. So we are going to, I'm so excited about this. So we talked about this last week. We did our March, at the end of March, we did an episode on the apps to watch, and we demoed LiveFlow, and like the next day LiveFlow was like, thank you, we want to come on the show and do a deep dive. So we were like, yes, we're so excited about it. So we've been working hard to get this up and running. And then the cool thing, one of the really cool things I'm excited about is that Corey has joined us too. Corey works with me at Growth Lab Financial as a Service, and he is actually heading up the process optimization team that we just started. And so he has been working with LiveFlow for a while now. And so he agreed to come on and show us what he's been doing with LiveFlow. And so it's just really, really cool. So I'm like so excited about this, this episode.
Well, and you know, it's always nice to hear from somebody who's using the tool to be able to weigh in on how they're using it. So, yep, I agree. Grateful that you're here.
Yes, thank you, Corey. I know you're busy too.
Share a little, we'll give away a little something at the end on my side for everyone. So excited. So thank you, everyone.
Very nice. And those of you who are joining us via Facebook, we'll share resources there too as they
we will absolutely.
But to kick us off, where are we going with this? Reporting. That's where we're going. So autopilot for reporting. How do we get there? What does it look like? And not only is it really reporting, but I would say that then you're able to take it and make it dynamic. So you can analyze the data, you can automate the data. You have so many options inside of LiveFlow that we've got another special guest here, Anita, and we'll do a nice introduction here in a second. But she is going to give an overview of how to use so many of these different features that I think are going to stand out to many of us, because we truly are looking for automation type tools. And this is a perfect example of something that you should have in your tech stack as part of that automated workflow. Heather, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I do. So I'm Heather Satterlee, and I am the Chief Innovation Officer of Growth Lab Finance as a Service. And I am helping with Corey to lead the Satterlee by Growth Lab team. And so I love technology. I love automation. I love seeing processes get streamlined so that people can do the things that they love rather than clicking their fingers on a keyboard. So I'm super excited. As I mentioned last week, I just joined the Growth Lab team, and it's been amazing, like amazing people. And it's funny because Corey and I have been working together now for about 3 weeks, and it feels like he and I have been working together forever. Like we've got our team, we have a little team of 3. We've got Katie, which everybody knows Katie because she helps us out with Happy Hour too. Corey and I, and it feels like we've been doing this for a really long time. So it's been really fun.
That's a nice flow. That's great. It's always good whenever your team can jam and get stuff done. Helps productivity. Well, I'm Liz Scott. Most of you here know me, so hey. You know, as far as cool stuff that I've been able to do this week, playing with LiveFlow has been super, super fun. And because we work with clients that are in QuickBooks Online, we only have 2 clients that are still in desktop. The rest are all inside of QuickBooks Online. This is a tool that I'm excited about, and I don't want to give too many reasons as to why I'm excited just yet, but part of it is because you can take data and you can pull it all together and be able to look at clients across the board. That's one of the areas for us that we're interested in being able to look at reporting. We also want to say a huge thank you to our Champagne level sponsor, Ignition. So they are sponsoring Happy Hour and bringing all of this to you for the year of 2022. And we have another episode that's coming up with Ignition where we're going to go through some templates that we've created, where they're available inside of Ignition so that way you can download and be able to create engagement letters and have some templates in order to have a starting point.
And we're also going to have a big old after tax season party with prizes.
So true. There are prizes. You're right. I forgot about the prizes. So
Super
next
fun.
week,
That's
Mhm.
next Tuesday. We are going to party it up and celebrate all things spring, end of tax season, ignition, and all their new stuff, our templates, and people are starting to come out a little more. I don't want to say the words, but I'm going to say the words. The pandemic seems to be winding itself down. So all these things to celebrate. So that's what we're doing next week. So I hope you guys all join us.
Or we're learning to live with it. However you see
Yeah.
it. But yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with you. People are moving around now, which is,
Yes.
it makes my heart happy because being trapped inside sometimes feels like claustrophobic. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to see my friends. So we also want to say thank you to LifeFlow. We're glad that you're here and that you have brought this episode to us. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and say, Anita, we are grateful that you're here. And as the co-founder of LifeFlow, would you like to share a little bit more about your journey?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for featuring us earlier. When I saw that video, I was over the moon. Thank you so much. It was great. So today, I'm happy to tell you more about the product and how we came up with this idea and our journey so far. So I'm a co-founder of LifeFlow. Previously, I worked at a company which is called Travelit. It's a UK-based fintech company, currently valued at $33 billion. So I was in charge of business development at one of the products and worked with small and medium businesses, and oftentimes worked with financial models, and saw how much of a struggle it was to figure out the financial models for small businesses versus the big ones like Uber and Amazon. And I teamed up with my ex-colleague and now co-founder Lessa to start LifeFlow. So we were very lucky. We got into Y Combinator, which is an accelerator in the US, back in January 2021. And that's how our journey began. Sorry, like last year, it was still pandemic. We a little bit overused this word, but we were locked in our apartments trying to hack things and understand how to build the product that people really want. So we started with the dashboard that we thought would be ideal for customers to figure out that people wanted something very flexible and applicable to their own use cases. That's how we came up with the idea of an add-on, where essentially you can pull your QuickBooks data right into Google Sheets in real time and create your own custom dashboards that will be all updated in real time. So we released this product late September, October last year, and really went through the roof. And surprisingly, the most engaged and happy audience is the audience of accountants, bookkeepers, and CFOs. And these are people who work with numbers on a daily basis, you know, yourself. And we are really happy to empower you with the tools that big technological companies use and bring it to small businesses.
Well, we are grateful as well. And it's fascinating that you said the audience that is using the tool the most is the financial industry. So it is available for, you know, small businesses or mid-sized businesses themselves to go out and grab and use themselves. But it makes sense that people like Corey, who I'd like to introduce next, you're using it, Corey, to be able to go through some financial analytics that she'll show us later. But would you like to introduce yourself, Corey?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Corey Knoyer. As Heather mentioned, we are working together closely now. I kind of split my time between the FP&A side, which is where I kind of dug my teeth into LifeFlow a little bit deeper. So I'll share a little bit more about like what that means and how we've used it in our use case. But I kind of split my time between the FP&A, financial planning and analysis team, and then recently with Heather and Katie on the process improvement side. So working together with small businesses and other accounting firms to help them understand, you know, where they can optimize their own processes and, you know, what their own tech stack looks like. So I'm excited to jump in.
Very nice. Yep. So our agenda today, we're going to go through the solution LifeFlow, and then also, as always, we will have our drink toast, which is right next to me. And I can't wait to show you this beautiful blue drink because it's really cool. It's a really bright, colorful drink. But I think that as far as being able to start this conversation, Heather, the piece of it that we keep seeing is being able to manage reports.
Yeah. And, I want to touch on what Anita just said about accountants loving this product and then also saying that they started with the dashboard and then decided to make that flexible tool. And those two things go together, right? I think that we want customization, and this leads right into what you're talking about. We love customization. Accountants, um, we want to see the data the way we want to see it. We have our own way of looking at data, financial data, and we want it reported in a very specific way that's meaningful to us and allows us to basically tell the story to our client and work through problems and help them to grow and find, reach their goals. And so, taking care of manual reporting, what we were finding that we were doing was going in, creating reports that were canned reports that we would customize as much as we possibly could, but then we had to export those, right, to Excel or Google Sheets or whatever, and then piece them together to get the actual data that we needed in order to have those really important conversations with our clients. And so what that, activity is of like exporting those documents and piecing them together, what that does is that's not a value added activity for anyone. It doesn't benefit us as accountants. It doesn't benefit our clients. It's honestly a waste of time, right? Because we're repeating the same steps over and over again, when really what we need is we need a way to have that information available to us and to our clients with the click of a button, right? So it's really, that's the whole point of automation, is to, automate those activities that don't provide value really, to a business. And I think that piecing all those reports together doesn't do that. I mean, the data does, but not the activity of piecing all that.
Well, and the other piece of it is when you're exporting out of QuickBooks, it's, we've talked about flat files on QuickBooks before, but it doesn't have any formulas inside of
Right.
the data. So you can't do anything with that data, nor can you dig backwards in order to be able to see what was the source of that data. So
Totally.
that's part of the problem. And then I would say that leads directly into this one, which then leads to frustration. So, today, one of the things I was doing was going in and making some edits to payroll mapping. So I've got some clients that really like to be able to dig into their payroll expense accounts. Is pretty extensive. And they hired some new team members and they wanted to be able to have the reports reflected in the way that they're used to. Well, those new team members were hired on, but the reports didn't show the type of customization that they're used to. So going back in and editing the data, then had to again export in order to be able to show them a report. That's part of the frustration, is that something like a scenario where today happened, I want to be able to hit refresh on a report and sharing it with my client. So externally outside of QuickBooks, maybe with some other formulas built into it, but I don't want to start from scratch. And starting from scratch is time consuming. And that's part of, one of the things that they have to deal with is, for them, these formulas actually drive their royalty fees that they've got to report monthly. And so those numbers being calculated are very important to them. So they do want to be able to figure out timely what's the amount that's due. And that's just one scenario that, today happened. And I was able to go, oh, I have a tool in my tool set that I didn't have a week ago. So I was not familiar with LiveFlow. Heather, you brought that into my world. Thank you. And it was a nice thing to be able to talk about during my client appointment today. Ooh, this one's fun. Remembers cassette tapes. I'm not sure if this is a cassette tape or a VHS tape. They're kind of the same. But this weekend we were painting our bedroom, and behind the dresser pulled out an old VHR player. And so the kids were like, what do you do with that? So, looking at this cassette tape kind of cracks me up.
It cracks me up too. Remember when you had to take a pencil and you'd put it into one of those holes and you'd have to rewind it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before you could say, Alexa, just play that song.
Right.
Yeah. Or now what we do is, who knows what's on that VHS tape that we pulled out of our bedroom this weekend. But, now whenever I take pictures, they automatically upload. In my living room, I've got a frame that's digital. And so we just upload pictures to it, and everybody inside of our household can upload data.
That's awesome.
It is super fun because then I'm able to see my daughter might have had a really, really great day. She's playing with bunnies. So she might have had a really great day playing with bunnies, but since that's not here, I'm not able to see it. But because she can upload it, it's really, it creates an environment.
Is it Bluetooth, or how does it, or does it have Wi-Fi in it? How does it work?
It does have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm.
That's really awesome, because I actually have one that's in a box that I got that I have not had it. It's one of those things that we were just saying that I haven't had a chance to open. So now I'm gonna have to go open it and
It's
be
super
like,
fun.
"Hey, send me pictures."
It's super fun. And I have teenage boys, and they don't share hardly anything. My daughter shares everything, but they'll share pictures.
Mine was a gift from Intuit for being on the tax council. They sent me one.
Oh, cool.
It's really nice. So,
well, it's the same kind of environment inside of the QuickBooks world as it is inside of, our household. I don't know everything that's going on inside of my clients. Today it was payroll. So they had hired some new team members that I was unaware of, which then changed their reporting. And that's the same thing that's happening inside of, all of our clients. They're doing things because they want to be independent. They've got to be able to react fast. But if we don't see those live changes, then oftentimes we're behind the times. And like today, there was a place that needed to be corrected, and, call it messed up or call it just, going in and remapping. And updating. That was one of the things that was nice about, if I was in QuickBooks Desktop and not even in a hosted environment, that would have been really hard, really time consuming. Heather, what do you think about this?
I love this slide so much. I don't like what it represents, obviously, but this is a genius slide. It captures it. It totally captures the problem.
I agree. I totally agree. Because,
I like the little telephones, like call for help, email.
You still don't understand, I'm calling again. Let's look at QuickBooks together. And there's a Zoom call somewhere in between there, so you can look at QuickBooks together. Yeah.
You need your little lion head in there somewhere, because the lion head needs to be smack dab in the middle of this.
Right here next to, oh my gosh, we're doing this again.
Right.
But this is so true.
Yes,
when you're talking about exporting directly out of QuickBooks and not being able to update, because that's one of the things that's amazing about LiveFlow is we're able to export into Google Sheets environment, which because it's online, we can continually refresh. So super cool things going on that wouldn't be possible if we were working with Excel and just QuickBooks in Excel alone. So this must be a slide that's meant specifically for Debbie.
I agree. I was just thinking that exact thought.
Debbie, this will be you, I guess, next week. So
it will.
Congratulations.
That looks really nice.
All it needs is a couple of drinks, right?
Yeah. And some little umbrellas in your drink.
Oh, yeah. And some little chairs and some a beach towel. Yeah, I think so too. So being able to have a plan, being able to work remotely, being able to access data remotely is super important and definitely a time saver. And the collaboration piece, it's mind-blowing to me that we talk to accounting firms who still are in that mindset of holding the data. I call it holding it hostage because the client can't see any of the data. So I want them to be able to have access to their QuickBooks. I want them to be trained in QuickBooks. So we do spend time with new clients training them, because that's where a lot of the errors lie, is they have a lack of understanding of QuickBooks. But being able to share that data in real time is key. It's key for cash flow. It's key for being able to understand AR. It's, those are really, really important pieces, and having access to the data from multiple sources is also really helpful. So instead of having the multiple Excel slides and versions of it, one of the things that we are trying to do is move into this advisory spot. We've been hearing it for years that, the bots are coming. So, lots of us have transitioned into, what does advisory mean for you? And one way that you could be that advisor is to be that financial advisor, the insights advisor, being able to coach, whatever it is that you call it. A lot of times whenever I'm thinking about having a conversation with my client, I'm going to call that advisory. It's not just a client that, again, you're holding that hostage data and you only share with them, annually. I really enjoy being able to have clients that have access to their data, and that way they really do know what's going on.
I think the other piece with that too is when giving them access, you have control over like what version it is, right? It's one of the biggest challenges that we always had was I send a client a file and 3 days later that file is then expired, right? Because things happen. So being able to like control version control, I think is like a big piece of this as well.
That's a great point, because I find that if I can be ahead of my client, I get the wow. And so if I can predict that they're going to need these reports to be updated, like today. So if I'm able to say, okay, I know that there's these changes, now these reports all need to be updated. And if it's as easy as a click, as a refresh, then that's where the clients have those wows instead of constantly feeling like they're nagging you.
Agreed.
Yeah, nobody likes to be in that position to say, oh, and I need to also get, and I need to get, because those feels like it's uncomfortable conversations. But the truth is we want our clients to be aware. So it's like you said, 3 days, and a report is quickly out of date. We don't want clients to go in and change historical information and close periods, but they do.
They do. And yeah.
That totally happens. Well, I think that this is a really, really good spot for us to say, Anita, if you're ready, I'm going to stop sharing because I'd like for you to be able to jump in on this conversation, because you have some tools for us to be able to start looking at.
Sure, with pleasure. So let me share my screen. Let me know if you can see it now. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right, so now we see the Quickbooks App Store.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's where we start. So yeah, I stopped at the point where we figured out that our product is perfect for finance professionals, such as accountants, bookkeepers, CFOs, controllers. And we started this journey basically by talking to potential customers back then and figuring out what they really want. So we are talking about the US market, Canadian market, where the most popular accounting platform is QuickBooks. So we decided to start with QuickBooks and see how it goes. And it turned out that it's a whole new journey with a very deep rabbit hole with various edge cases. And it's very interesting to explore all of them and make people really powerful and like efficient with QuickBooks. So what we did, we released QuickBooks app that sits right here in the marketplace. If you guys don't know it, it's a really good place to find all sorts of apps to make you more productive at work. So we released this app and essentially started to take off. Here you can see some of the reviews. And yeah, basically this is the place where you can explore more about other people using the product and how to use it, and then eventually install it to your Google Sheets. So once you install this app, you go to Google Sheets, and that's where the app lives. So just to give you another kind of light here, another piece of information. There is also a marketplace for Google Sheets add-ons. So if you want to find some other tools, you can always go to this marketplace here. Under extensions, you can find all sorts of apps. If you go and search for LiveFlow, you will find us here. And it's pretty much the same story. It's a marketplace with reviews, and yeah, I think Corey left us a very, very good review back then. So yeah, you can find it here most likely. So once installed, you will see the app under extensions, and that's how you can connect to your QuickBooks accounts. So the main part here, which we discovered after talking to hundreds and hundreds of finance professionals, is that you guys need multiple companies to be connected. So what we learned is that when you have QuickBooks Online, you need to log in and log out to switch between clients, and it's really annoying. So this was the first problem that we wanted to solve, essentially multi-login, where you can connect to multiple clients, set up spreadsheets for each of them, and get them updated in real time without logging in and out of QuickBooks. So what we do next, we just click this button and we are redirected to the Intuit page where we need to authorize the app. And here we need to choose a client that we want to connect. So here I will have this company, Demo LiveFlow. Then essentially we just confirm that the connection is successful. And then you can see that we just connected this particular app. If you want to connect another client, or for example, a company can have multiple entities, you can connect all of them. So the way it works is very simple. You just click the same button. You connect to QuickBooks and you choose another company from the list. So this way you can connect as many companies as you wish, and they will all sit in your Google Sheets. So now the second company is connected. We're happy. We're going to import our first report, which will be the most popular report, Pnl. So here we choose the company, let it be a Demo, Acme, and then we choose a report and the accounting method. So let's talk about accrual. And here we need to choose a date range. So let it be this year to date, and then we display columns by month. It's a very standard setup that pretty much everyone uses. So we call it profit and loss, and we create a live report. So it's real quick. So we just pull the report. Here we can see the snapshot of our settings and when this report was updated last time. So that's where the interesting part comes in. As we just discussed, we don't want to have outdated reports that were refreshed like 3 days ago. We have our reports updating the numbers in real time, and it's really important. So I'll show you how we can actually pull the transactions from QBO to Google Sheets real fast. So we go to QuickBooks, to this company, and create a new transaction here. So let it be a new expense. And then here we just create, let's say, Facebook ads, online marketing, and let it be some weird amount like that. We are feeling generous here. And it's for the 12th of April, which is today. So here we can see that in April, we don't have any transactions, but we have one here in QuickBooks. So what we do, we go to this Manage Reports tab, and we can see that we just created a new Pnl report, which is added on top. And this report will be updated in 1 hour because the auto refresh is set up on an hourly basis. But what if you want to see the transaction right now? So we can do it. We can just hit the refresh button and the transaction will appear here. Here we go. This is our transaction. Obviously, it appeared under online marketing for April. So now let's talk about the update of this report, which I quickly mentioned, but I just want to go in a little bit deeper here. So imagine you work with your clients and you want them to check the spreadsheet as well. And you want the numbers to be updated exactly at the point when they open their spreadsheet. So you can choose this option. You just say, okay, let the numbers update when someone opens the spreadsheet. Then you share this document with your client. So just invite them via the link. And then whenever they open a spreadsheet, they will see all of their numbers updated. So obviously there will be a new time step every single time. If you don't want to, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to share that going through what you did today, right here in this demo with connecting, really is that simple. So yesterday this week has been the first time that I've had a chance to play with LiveFlow and connecting it, and then coming over here and doing the manage reports and choosing which report that I want to create has been super easy. So I want to make sure that whenever you come over here into Google Sheets, it looks like, wow, that's, got a lot of good data right there that you can play with and you can drill in like what you're showing. But the setup so far is very, very user friendly. You've done a very nice job.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, my pleasure. And yeah, something that I want to say here is that we are very receptive to feedback. So if you have like any thoughts, any immediate thoughts, please throw your thoughts right in the chat, and I'm happy to share what we are working on, what we are going to release next, etc. We really love to talk to customers. So yeah, I mentioned the updates, so we can refresh the reports whenever someone opens the spreadsheet every hour, or we can just completely disable it if you don't want the numbers to be updated. And let's say check these reports later. So we had a look at this, but now let's talk about these reports and what we can do with them once we have them imported. So here you can see the other tab, which is manage reports, where you can set up your date range depending on what you want to see. So similarly to this date range here, you can set up a custom date range, which essentially any date range that you want, let's say, to look into the future. So for example, we realized that this report should be updated in real time till the end of the year. And we have already imported it, and we don't want to create a new one. So what we do, we just go to the Manage Reports tab, we choose a date range custom, and we look till the end of this year, which is December 12th, December 31st of this year. So basically, we choose that, and then, for example, we want to change the accounting method. So we switch to cash and update this report. So what will happen is that we will add more columns, and whenever there is a new entry on QuickBooks, it will be synced with Google Sheets, and you will see all of the numbers here. So basically, you set up your report just once, and it will be all refreshed in real time. So we had a look at the date range. Now let's talk about changing this particular report up to our own needs. So what we learned so far is that many people want to have a look at, let's say, their budget versus actuals. And typically it's a very kind of cumbersome type of job where you need to add columns and then copy and paste numbers and, play with CSV files, which is not that fun. So what you can do with LiveFlow, you can modify these reports the way you want it. So for example, you want to add budget for April, you just add the new column. You say that this is budget, and yeah, sorry, we just go a little bit here, budget, April 2022, and then you most likely want to calculate the variance. So we will just do budget versus actuals and calculate the numbers, and then I'll just add the new transaction, and we'll see that whenever there is an update here on QuickBooks, we will pull this update and we'll recalculate all of the formulas and nothing will be broken. So to do here, we just go to QuickBooks. Let's add the new transaction for April. Let's say this one. It's not online marketing, something else. Let it be uncategorized. And let's do this amount for April, and let's add the class as well. So we just added a new transaction and we repeat pretty much the same. Just refresh this report and we will see the numbers recalculated here. Here we go. So basically you can create your own dashboards, which Corey will talk about later, which will be all refreshed in real time without breaking any cell references. And the good part is that you can reference all of the future cells as well. This way, saving hours and hours of your time.
I actually really liked
like
it that you pulled in the uncategorized expenses, because that's such a good example for us that we would want to go back in and we would want to dive into what was the client trying to do. And so having that hyperlink that would allow you to go into that transaction and probably change it and categorize it differently. It's really, really nice to have that visibility and access.
Yeah, and that brings us to the next point. So essentially, this is probably the most common use case when you have an uncategorized transactions, and then you want to talk to your client. And then we go back to that slide where you have Zoom calls, emails, SMS, and all of this stuff. So obviously, we can eliminate all of that if you just invite them to this Google Sheet and keep everyone in the loop. So for example, you can set up a rule if there are uncategorized expenses, just color it a certain way. For example, let it be yellow. So your client can come and say, okay, what's going on? So they can come and write on the cell, asking you what happened here, and then you can talk about. But the good part is that we can save you time of going to QuickBooks and looking at this particular transaction or any other. So typically you would go to QuickBooks and try just to figure out where the transaction was. So let's have a look at this one, for example. So here, we have a hyperlink to QuickBooks that allows us to find that particular value. So here we can see all of these uncategorized expenses, right? And yeah, it's convenient, but it takes time. So what you can do at LiveFlow, if you just go here to the same transaction and go to the product itself and drill down into our reports, we'll be able to see the exact same report right in Google Sheets. So basically both you and your client can just have a look at these transactions and just hover over any cell and see what was happening there, right? So that's the point of LiveFlow, just to save you time of going back and forth back to QuickBooks, just to have all of these transactions in Google Sheets.
There you go. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, this is just amazing. I mean, one of the things, my mind is just like going and going and going. So I'm looking at this, and one of the most common reports that I get asked about is the budget versus actual with remaining budget, right? That has the budget versus actual by month, and then it has the total budget, and the clients get, they get frustrated because they can't they have to run it in order to see the full budget for the year. They have to run the report for the whole year, right? And get it. And then they end up, so this would give you the opportunity to add a column that has the total budget, only have it up for the year to date.
Yeah, so that's something that is very popular, and this drill down feature came exclusively from customers. So basically people are saying, how can we drill down? And the language came from the people. It's not that we knew before that it would be like drill down. So really listen to people in this case and build this feature. So now we had a look at the drill down, and I want to show you a few other things that I haven't presented yet. So if you go back here, we can see that so just for the convenience of using the product, you can just minimize it in case you work with it, and you can move the model as well. So here, as we just talked, you can change your existing reports. You can choose the basis of these reports, etc. But you can actually have way more reports that we just looked at. It was just the Pnl. Here I want to show you a few other things that you can manage from the Create Report app. So apart from the Pnl report, there are other reports that you can see right now. I'll just briefly scroll through them. And then you can customize this report. So for example, something that released fairly recently, I think like a month ago, is the report organized by classes, for example. So that's something that people asked about. For example, if you want to have your balance sheet, but you don't want your columns organized by month, you want to see classes instead. So in this case, you just pull, let's say, balance sheet, and you will be able to see that these are the classes that you had set up in that particular account. Apart from that, you can just turn filters. So in this case, when you choose something here, it will be only this particular filter. So I'll just have a look at another company here. And let's have a look at the Pnl. We have better classes. So here we have classes as locations. So basically, we can just carve out only this particular class and look at it without having all of the other classes organized in months. So that's something that is also popular. So you see the report here, and we see that it was filtered by class. Meanwhile, columns are organized by month, but all of the other classes are not connected. So this way you can create, let's say, all of the classes in a spreadsheet if your client needs to look at classes only. In the same way, you can look at other options here. So you can filter by employees, by suppliers, product, service, customer, project, or by account as well.
What is also really cool about this that I like is, as we think about like building out these reports or building out like a reporting package, maybe better put, to whether it's clients or whether it's to their own investors, their own board, right? You have the ability to set these up as, I'll call it templatized, but then you have the option to say, pull back on how often it gets refreshed. Because one of the biggest things that I try and hold customers back from is looking at intermonth numbers sometimes, right? It's just like they're so in flux. And so you have the option to templatize and prep it up without actually having it fully live if you don't want it to be. There's a huge feature.
Thank you. Yeah, sounds really good. All right, so we had a look at our report. So something that I really want to show you is that you can use our template library. Again, that's something came from people who asked us about different use cases. And we had a look at budget versus actuals. And the next big thing is, of course, the P&L report. So many people struggle with consolidating multiple entities, and we do know it's a nightmare and takes a lot of time. So with LiveFlow, as I mentioned, you can connect all of the entities in one spreadsheet and then create a consolidated P&L that will just pull all of these numbers in real time for you. So the way it works is that you pull one entity, you will see all of the months. Again, we look till the end of the year. And we'll see all of the accounts on the left-hand side, the same for the entity number 2. And then we just create a consolidated chart of accounts and create a formula, which is index match, that allows us to index the entity and match it on the account name and the month. And the same for the entity number 2, then we have totals as a sum of both. And then basically we can switch between this month and see how we performed back then. So that's one of the most popular templates that we use. The way it works is that you just connect LiveFlow, pull your entities, copy the formula, and it will do the job for you. Another report that is really, really popular and we truly love it is the report of your accounts payable. So essentially it's a dashboard that allows you to see, for example, top 10 vendors organized right here. So basically this is the report that uses the formula here, which is called sort N, and looks at the standard report that we pulled from QuickBooks. So here you would always have like a data source that has all of the numbers that you need to look at, and then LiveFlow will just organize the job for you. So I strongly encourage you to use templates to automate your job. And another one is the report, which is called Pnl Class Dashboard, where essentially you can organize your classes and consolidate them on a month level. So basically you need to have a look on classes back to back, but also you want to see how they performed across the month. So the logic is pretty much the same as I showed you. You can pull this particular report, carve out the class. In each case, it will be Los Angeles, New York, and San Francisco, and then create a consolidated report with all of these classes lined up. So yeah, probably the last bit here would be to talk about how you can actually turn it into something you can share with your clients. And I saw someone asked us about exporting this into Excel. So that's something that I would love to cover, unless we have other questions.
No, this is fantastic. If you want to show how you can export to Excel, that's great.
Cool. So let's have a look. For example, we have this beautiful dashboard and we want to share it with our clients. So there are multiple ways how you can do it. Of course, as I mentioned, you can share this report and give them different levels of access, either viewers, commenters, and editors. But sometimes you don't really want them to touch anything. So you know the case, they just come, they see their numbers on the high level, they're fine, they just do their job, they do something else. So the way to do it is just to turn this dashboard into a web page that will be just published to your clients in particular. So all you do is just click publish to web, and you choose what you want to publish, either the entire document or the dashboard. So in this case, we'll just look at the dashboard and have this link. So you send this link to your client, and they see just a web page that doesn't allow them to click anything, but just to see the numbers, and they will be all updated in real time. So there is one way to share this dashboard with them. Another way is just to save it as a file. So you can go here and choose download, and here you will have options. Let it be PDF, which will be just a static doc that you can just share by email. But in this case, unfortunately, they will not be able to see numbers flowing in real time. And another option is, of course, to save it as an Excel file. For those who, yeah, go ahead, Liz.
Question. And so Catherine's asking, would that client need to have access to Google Sheets? And the answer is no. So as long as they have access to this link, then they wouldn't need to have a Google Sheets account, because it's essentially tied to your Gmail account.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't need to have any Google Sheets. They're totally fine. It really depends how you share. So if you go here, publish to web, and have a look at the settings, you can just restrict to who can view this document, right? So it's really important. If you want them just to view it without having any domain name under Google Sheets, it's fine. You just remove the restriction and they will be able to open the link. Yep, we are good.
And so, yep, I think so. So the question is well, what if they are a Microsoft user? So in that case, yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. If they're Microsoft users, so in this case, I can just pull, let's say, an incognito window. So it means that there is no one logged in. So let's try to publish it. File, share, publish to web. And then I will not restrict it. So I publish it, and it will be the entire document. Give me a second. Okay, so here is the link. You can share it right here by Gmail, Facebook, Twitter. And then your client just goes to, let's have a look at this incognito, goes to the link and sees the document available. So basically they don't need to be logged in. You can see that I'm not logged in. And they can switch between all of these tabs without doing anything in particular. They cannot actually drill down. They cannot manage anything here. Just see the numbers, and these numbers will be just updated in real time for them.
Which for the most part, I would say the majority of clients, when you're sharing this with them, I think that would be fine to have these files that wouldn't be dynamic, because you're the one who's the driver of that data.
Yep. Yeah, so I've heard many times like people saying, I don't want my client to mess things up. I just want them to be updated, and I want them to know what's going on without necessarily touching things.
Sometimes.
Fair. Fair. What can I say? All right. So, and the last bit is the connection between Google Sheets and Excel. We also learned that many people still love Excel, and this is totally fine. It's extremely powerful, and I think Google Sheets are catching up, and they will be there. And there are obviously a few things that I truly love about Google Sheets, like sharing access, or for example, seeing all of the changes on the document, right? Version history, you can always roll back and just revert to the version that you saved before, which you can't really do in Excel. So if you love Excel, I understand, and there is a way to publish it to Excel. So we recorded this video that explains how you can publish it. It's a process. It takes a little bit of time, but it's actually working. And we have a few customers who really love this process because they have very complex formulas that are not on Google Sheets. So basically, it's the same thing. You publish to web, And then within Excel, you should just be able to go to get data. So you have data, get data, and then you choose from web and you insert the link that you just copied from here from Google Sheets. So once you insert that link, you just confirm that you want to transform this data to an Excel table. And then essentially you will see this table created in Excel, and it will be exactly the same as in Google Sheets, and it will be updated every 5 minutes in Excel. So it is possible, and we have an instruction on how to do it. So you can see that we can refresh it, and the most, like the highest frequency is like 5 minutes. And that's it. It will be working, and it will be pulled from Google Sheets, but it requires some extra step from your side. That's pretty much it. Let me know if any questions.
Well, you say that's just it, but there was so much here to talk through and think through that I like the versatility. And, you know, being able to, from the perspective of, I may not share the link to the active Google Sheet because I want to be able to keep my formulas in place. And so that might not be something that I do. But as far as being able to myself drill down into those numbers, I feel like that's really, really key. And earlier you were showing, whenever we were talking about, maybe it was the cost of goods sold by t-shirts, being able to see, you know, even the income, being able to see all of the transactions that made up that income, because sometimes that's important whenever you're thinking about who are your best customers or what would be, the drill down. The drill down feature I think is really cool.
Yeah, I think this is the one. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, music to my ears. And if I can hear more feedback what we need to build, I'm more than happy. So please feel free to share your thoughts on what the dream solution for you would be like.
You've built such a wonderful tool that has versatility to it, because I also feel like it's really nice to be able to stay inside of one tool. So being logged into Google Sheets and doing my work here and having the drill down access. But I also even like that you've got the hyperlink to that live data. So in that uncategorized expense scenario, we would be able to go back over into QuickBooks, because maybe on that line 26, maybe we really do actually know the answer. Maybe our client threw that transaction into uncategorized and they were really wanting us to go and look at it. So in a scenario like that, being able to pull this report, maybe this is the place that you review client data, and then you're able to have that hyperlink that takes you into QuickBooks and make that change.
And what's really cool with that too is that as you develop your own reports, right? So say you pull off of the profit and loss into your own dashboard or your own report, those hyperlinks stay active across the different reports. And so even if it's 3 derivatives away from the main like live flow report, you can still access QuickBooks really easily without having to backtrack and find it. So I second that, Liz. That's an amazing feature.
Oh, wait, okay. So I'm gonna make sure I heard that right, because I think I heard what you said, that I can take away the sync. So now I've just got archived reports essentially, but you're saying that I could actually go back into that data and I could see the transactions and drill down and have that hyperlink?
So one feature that we use that I'm going to show in a bit is, let's say you have this profit and loss, right? And you, or maybe the AP dashboard is a great example of this. Like when you pull data off of the main live flow reports, and you link it, that link to QuickBooks stays current across tabs.
Nice.
I'll show it when we go into it. It's a little,
Yeah,
there's a lot to it.
Maybe it's over to you.
No, that's really cool. No, I actually like that because being able to go back and look later after the fact is still really important. So to not lose those links is great. And Corey, your question actually goes into, Lisa asked a question about Google Sheets sharing at one time. So I would say that there are use cases for the majority of people. Yes, you would share at one time. And that would be the beauty of having what Anita showed us, pulling out that profit and loss all the way through year end. So those fields are going to refresh every hour, or if you come in here and manually click refresh, it will refresh. And then at the end of the year, you will have finished maybe this workbook. Or what you could do is say, I'm going to create a new sheet and it's going to be for 2023 activity. So you could freeze a report and make it historical and no longer active. But yes, I would say that you would just, the beauty of this is sharing the link one time.
Yep. All right. So I think that's probably it from my side. Over to Corey. Thank you so much.
This is fun.
Share my screen. Let me know when everyone can see this flash report.
Yes, we see
We
it.
can see it.
Perfect. So what I wanted to kind of talk through is a little bit more of a use case on LiveFlow, and I'm gonna dive into this, but kind of talking through Growth Lab and some of the ways that we've used this. And this is probably one of the best and clearest examples I can give as to like how we as accountants can become advisors to our clients is through finding ways that we can deliver data to them in a clean and organized way that they can actually digest, right? Because there's nothing worse than actually giving them something that to us as like people that understand and love the numbers, giving it to someone else that's just like, it just doesn't click with them, right? So finding a way to actually connect with them is probably one of the most important things. And for us, that happens to be in the form of a flash report. In a flash report, kind of at a high level, basically what it is it's really just a summary of the different financial statements, right? We have the balance sheet, we have the income statement or Pnl, we have the cash flow analysis, and then we have that variance snapshot, which in this case is more of that actuals to budget. And I'll go down a little bit deeper into like the nuances of this and how this got built, leveraging LiveFlow. But back for a second to what I was trying to articulate to you was right here, right? So we are pulling off of other LiveFlow reports, right? If I go to this profit and loss, this is the LiveFlow pulled data. When I link it into the flash report, right there, I can immediately go into QuickBooks. And so I don't have to go back and find that 820 or 108,000 and then click the link. It's right here for me, which is amazing.
I love that. I love what you've created here, this consolidation.
We're gonna
Awesome.
share this after the fact too, so all the attendees will get to have a template of this. But basically, I'll kind of just run through what how we've built this, and I have a template that's blank for everyone. But basically, what this is like I said, it's a balance sheet, P&L, cash flow, and then variance. And what we've leveraged is in our use case is you have your standard chart of accounts as you would find in the LiveFlow report. So income statements, you have two revenue chart of accounts, online sales and retail. If I go over to my profit and loss, online sales and retail. In my reports, all of my reports I happen to pull back from 2021 because like all of these numbers as we go over these with clients, right, they don't mean anything without context. They don't mean anything unless you can compare it to something, right? Is $1 million a lot of money in revenue or a little amount? Well, it depends, right? There's no clear answer to that. So all of these have to be based on context. What we've done for our clients is we have, in this case, March 22 versus March 21, year to date. Same thing with the balance sheet and the variance snapshot. What's beautiful about LiveFlow is not only the fact that these numbers can get updated, right? So if someone goes back in and changes March data from 1.54 to 1.6, that's automatically going to flow. But maybe what I find the more beautiful aspect of this is, let's say a month goes by from now, right? A month goes by from now, April has been closed, and we want to pull in April data into this. Well, frankly, all we have to do is, I need to change and which month, how it's articulated. Oh, it's April close. Maybe I'll use February as a better example because it's intermonth. Right. and it's automatically going to pull in some different bank accounts numbers, right? In this case, in the balance sheet. So as we begin to like update some of these titlings, it's going to actually automatically flow in some of the data. I'm going to undo that for a second so the numbers reflect accurately, but it's going to undo some of that data so that it pulls off of the correct month that we want to, right? Because at the end of the day, what are we trying to do for clients? We're trying to make something that's scalable because, right, like Anita, that's the whole point of why you built this, was to build a scalable solution that helps to save you time, right? And so by leveraging some of these functionality of like the automation of live flow and the automation of formulas, we can do that. So how these are built, right? We use a template at Growth Lab. This template is, right here. This one's customized to this chart of accounts. But basically, all you would do is you'd update with the chart of accounts to start, right? So if you have 6 different revenue line items, you're going to add a couple rows, add the different revenue chart of accounts. Same thing with cost of goods sold and operating expenses, right? Focus on the chart of accounts first because that's how the data is organized. Same thing with the balance sheet and the variance snapshot. From there, it's actually really simple. What we've done is we've used HLOOKUPs, which you may be familiar with. And HLOOKUP, and all I'm actually going to do is I'm going to look up the month and time that we are looking at. In this case, I'm going to be looking for online sales. If I go over to the profit and loss, I want to capture the entire piece of this. And then I'm going to be looking at the 3rd row down. So the HLOOKUP is the horizontal. I'm going to type number 3. False, and close. That false, for those of you that aren't familiar with the HLOOKUPs, that simply just is sorted. So I usually just go like false by standard. And it's automatically going to pull in that number, right? I can pull that 2 cells forward, and you'll notice same exact formula. I just lock these cells. I'll show illustrative. Same exact formula, right? But since it's pulling off the month, this month is automatically going to update all of the numbers across this. So the beautiful aspect of this is, once again, back to the scalability of working with our customers. So going down to the variance snapshot, once again, actual to budget. We all talk about this, right? That's like at the end of the day, a lot of customers want to know, what did I tell you or my team I was going to do, and then what did I actually do, right? And so that's where we pull this variance snapshot. So these are all just referencing, right? And then we have the AOP, the annual operating plan, which is just that standard budgets for the year. And then we have the variance snapshot that compares these. The concept of using a flash report like this for our clients is the fact that, A, there's 2 options, many options to share this, but one of the most beautiful that Anita went into was you can actually share this flash report to the web as its own, as an individual dashboard for the customer that you don't need to be involved with, right? The most work that you need to do if you set this up properly is change the timeframes in here. And all the data should automatically flow from QuickBooks because we've built all these reports to go out as year to date as far as possible. So I'll pause there because there's a lot to this. I'm sure there's questions circulating, or I'm sure you guys have thoughts or feedback on this, but this is an amazing tool that we've started to leverage live flow with for our customers. I think there's a ton more, but start there.
Using this for? Did you start with like a test group and then you're expanding that out?
So flash reports, it depends on the customer. This is a great example. We've actually started to use this more and more on cash flow statements, which is it's a much larger example to show, which is why I did not go there today. But a handful of our customers, and more as we've begun to like leverage the product, more and understand this deeper, finding new use cases for it, just on ways to automate it, right? I think for these technologies, and I think everyone here would agree, like we almost have to find like what are we actually trying to show at the end of the day, right? And not just put the technology before the solution. And so I think every day as we go into this, we're finding new solutions for live flow that we didn't realize were there in the first place, right? So I think it's a continuous graduation of more and more of our customers.
I agree. And I think I mean, this is amazing just because it solves a huge, I mean, it really solves a huge problem of trying to, fit a, a, a square peg in a round hole, right? Of trying to get the perfect solution, reporting solution for our clients, and it just doesn't work. This gives us the flexibility to build what we need and then link it right to QuickBooks. So I love this. And, while you guys have been demoing this, of course, where my brain had to go is like, how do I use this with Zapier?
Oh,
And so I have some ideas that I might share at the end after we do some stuff, because I just created a pretty neat Zap that Liz probably just popped in and saw in our Slack channel.
no, but you know what's funny is I was working on one too.
Oh, you were? Of course you were. Of course you were.
And the nice thing is that everything integrates with Google Sheets, right? So there's
Exactly.
a common connection.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
so,
that's
I
why we
mean-
started to build it for Google Sheets first, because they have this ecosystem that allows us to build on top. And also QuickBooks, the API is great and allows us to connect things that seem a little bit difficult to connect at first. But it all makes sense, and it really saves people, I think, days of time altogether.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of the Zaps that I've been asked to build and I haven't been able to build them, but now I can, is, I've had people ask me, well, I want to get a notification when my sales go over this amount. Right. And so what's nice is that in Zapier, you can go in and you can have a trigger on a particular row in a Google Sheet. And then you could use the filters to say when this row changes, which you can update automatically, and say the filter when it goes over a certain amount, right? Send a Slack message, send a text message.
That's really cool.
Whatever.
That's really cool. We don't have this use case yet, but yeah, it resonates. It makes so much sense.
It does. And I get asked that all the time, is like, I need to monitor this report and I need to know when the number changes because I need to take action. And I haven't been able to deliver on that. And now I can. I just tested it and it just totally worked.
That's
So
really cool.
it can 100% work.
Yeah, if you can share how you did, like the Zap, like how it works.
I can share
that's quite amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I figured, I think Liz has some stuff that she wants to share when Corey's done, but yeah, I'd love to.
Thank you, Corey. That was great.
Before we move, I mean, I feel like, Corey, one of the things that you said is interesting, because I asked the question about who's wanting these types of reports, like who you're using them for, and you shared a lot of cash flow clients. I haven't been asked cash flow questions in my entire career as much as I've been asked in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
Modeling cash flows for, I mean, I think that's the unfortunate truth that we saw with the pandemic really threw a curveball, obviously. But I think that forced people to think of their cash flows in a different light, for better or for worse.
I agree. And so whenever you were sharing your workbook, did you have a cash flow sheet that you're working off of that was inside of that workbook?
Inside of this one, no. We do have a template I'm happy to share with everyone. We use, depending on the, how we approach these is on the 13-week cash flow when we're trying to be a little bit more tactical. But the beautiful thing with LiveFlow is that you can parse those reports by, on a cash basis by week, right? And so once again, it goes back to your numbers mean nothing without context. And so you can feed in the historicals automatically. And then the forward-looking is, really the work that we as, advisors put into it.
That's really interesting. And it makes me also want to reach out to you, Anita. Or what are you hearing whenever people are asking for reports? Are you hearing more cash flow related questions?
To be honest, like when I look at numbers, like which reports are the most popular, we see the Pnl report as the top leader. Like nothing can beat the Pnl, it looks like it. Then cash flow is the second most popular report, and then it's balance sheet. Recently, Pnl detail started to pick up. Not sure why in particular this one, but yeah, it does make sense. But yeah, that's the truth that we see on our side in terms of kind of reports imported. We see the numbers have been updated on an hourly basis. we do see that cash flow does pick up, but it's still the second.
It's interesting because in the very beginning of 2020, the question that I was asking or that I was being asked is, I know that I need to manage my cash flow, but I don't exactly understand what that means. So being able to walk somebody through a cash flow statement, being able to educate them, because these are the kinds of questions that I feel like anytime that we're playing with data, anytime that we're playing with numbers, we have an opportunity for training. And it's fair that our clients don't know all of these answers. They went into school for it or into a field because of a love for it or education for it or whatever. So the financial part of it, sometimes they either get too busy or they just have outgrown the ability to do it themselves, and they're asking for more features and more needs.
Yeah, like before launching the product, we did a market research and tried to figure out why businesses fail. And we figured that in 82% of cases, they fail because of poor cash flow management. Yeah, that's the ugly truth that businesses are facing, and they definitely need help. And I guess that's why we are all here to make them more successful.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that where a lot of clients, especially small business clients, they're managing cash flow off of their bank register. That's where they go. And that's what makes sense to them. But being able to have these types of reports to talk through and to work through what each of those scenarios are, I think the education is invaluable. Just like with you, Heather, you were saying, oh my gosh, your head's spinning with all of these ideas. That's what happens whenever you start having these types of conversations. You go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that this was something that I could do or even a possibility. And then you start jumping into, I really need blah, blah, blah. I didn't know that I would be able to get that. So Heather, do you want to share your Zap?
Yeah, do you want to share yours first?
Oh, mine was just a play. So go ahead and share yours, and then if we have some time, I'll share my playground that I had a good time hanging out with today.
I was actually in your playground because that's where I built mine. So maybe we built the same one.
I don't think
I'm
so.
just playing too. Like I'm just playing too because I was trying to figure out what I could do. But let me get into. So what I did is I was trying to look at it, and I think that you'd have to structure it. I was just working off of your cash flow statement here. And I was thinking to myself, you know, if the cash flow at the end of the period, and this isn't a good example, it'd probably be better on a balance sheet. If the cash at the end of the period drop of below a certain amount, that maybe we want to send somebody some kind of a notification. Another example could be sales, or it could even be, you know, looking at the expenses by supplier. If you reach a certain amount, maybe you want to send a message to somebody to say, hey, we hit the volume discount amount. Can you make sure you're checking to make sure we're getting the correct pricing, right? Something like that. So the way it would work is that in Zapier, we have the ability to do a trigger on a new or updated spreadsheet row in a Google Sheet. So you would just go through and set up the trigger to go to the, you know, the spreadsheet, the worksheet, and then look at the trigger column, right? And then you would go ahead and select a filter that says, hey, only look at this row ID, which is the row ID of the field that you want. And then you can put in whatever other filters that you want. So in here, I said, if it drops it below 50,000, then what I want you to do is send a message in Slack. And then that message in Slack, you know, would say, uh-oh, your cash balance is 32,107 because I've mapped to the amount and the value of the spreadsheet. You told me to warn you when it dropped below 50,000, right? So that is a way that, and I mean, my idea, this was just to test it to say, is that something that's actually could work? And yeah, it is. And there's lots of different ways in Zapier where you can do lookups, right, within the Google Sheet to find the data. So even if the data moves, right, you can have it look for a particular value and then return a relational value, like in the next cell over. You can do that as well. So I'm excited because this gives me something to play with in my free time, to go and figure out all the different ways that I can make this amazing. But, you know, just thinking of this one example of, if you go over a certain amount with a vendor, that you get a price break, to have somebody on a purchasing team under, be able to monitor that in real time is really valuable. You could do the same thing with sales. It could be cash balances. It could be targets that you're setting for your team that you want to celebrate. So this is really exciting to me because of that, because that's the one thing that people are saying, I want to get a notification when there's accumulated balances, and you just can't do it because the QuickBooks database isn't set up that way that you can just retrieve that information like that. So that was what I was doing.
That's incredible, I have to say.
That's super fun. Okay, so I'll share what I did this week, because whenever we're testing out apps, I want to be able to have that user experience to think about use cases, and then also any types of, that was a little bit buggy. Didn't find any. I was just completely wowed and blown away. So let me go ahead and share what I did. So I created a fantastic school, because y'all know how much I really love Harry Potter. And on Friday, there's a new movie release.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll call you later.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. So it's the third in the series. So one of the things that happens inside of Fantastic Beast here is we've got a school, and this is the UK school. And so this is the file that I've got. And then I decided, ooh, what a fun test to be able to pull in LiveFlow. So here we've got our company and connected to LiveFlow. I'm going to make that bigger because it seems to be really small. And the place that I was able to start with, so I said I wanted to create a report. All of these reports down here were something that once I connected, I was able to go and generate. So you can see all of these, but let me show you how easy it is to go and create these reports. So I'm inside of my Google Sheet. I go to my extensions and LiveFlow, and I could either choose to create a report or I could manage my report. And we can do that in a second, but I want to just create one, and I want to show you what that experience is like. So while in LiveFlow, right here, I've got the option to connect to the company, and Anita, you were showing that. So I won't go into that too much, but then I can say I want to choose my report. So here's my client file. And then if I wanted to pick a report that maybe I haven't chosen yet, I really actually think that expenses by supplier report is pretty cool. And then again, like you said, we could change that date, but maybe I want to see this year to date. And now all I have to do is say, create the report. It's really, really, really that easy. So it's going in, it's saying, here's the template. Now it populated the information right here. And then like what you were saying, Heather, that you could do things with this data, but from a standpoint of, if I was only reviewing based off of LiveFlow, if this was the tool that I was using to, maybe I've got a team member that said, hey, I've done all of the pieces inside of QuickBooks. Can you now go and review? My review might be inside of LiveFlow. And I would come down here and immediately say, oh my gosh, what is this unspecified? And I could click into it and I could either drill down or I could do the go in. But that has a lot of information to be able to say, like, who are your biggest vendors for expenses? The other thing that I found pretty cool, so you showed the profit and loss, but where my head went with Zapier was to think about, okay, uncategorized expenses. That's a real thing that we experience. So I went and I created an uncategorized expense. And then I said, how about a notification gets sent every single time the report gets refreshed? And maybe it's on a monthly period because I'm doing my review monthly. And I go in and I look at this refresh and I've got uncategorized expenses. So automatically I could send off my Zap to be able to say, I'm pulling in this row, and the same Zap that you were showing, the row has been updated. So row has been updated, and then I can send off that message to Slack or email, or like you said, text. So you can do whatever with that message, but that's where my head went. was looking at uncategorized expenses and having some notifications sent off.
Yeah, I mean, there's other cool things you could do with Zapier too. I mean, for example, you can have an automation that actually pulls this whole Google Sheet down into another type of file and sends it, right? So, you know, you can find a file in Google Drive, right? There's lots of triggers and actions from Google Drive. So there's a ton of things that you can do with Zapier in this. My mind is just like, it's going. It's,
Well,
yeah.
it's
There was one other interesting place that we have talked about recently using it, which is probably timely with taxes around the corner, is consolidations.
Ooh.
So you have multiple P&Ls, since you can connect to multiple QuickBooks instances in one Google Sheet, build your consolidated P&L in another tab, automatically update. So something that we've thought about exploring.
My
You know,
gosh.
that's real.
So that's exactly where I was thinking too. So I've got my fantastic school, because we know that the UK school of wizardry and witchcraft is definitely, you know, the one that we all know about. But then there's always this rivalry with the US school. And so I thought, what if we were able to take that rivalry and then take our reports and then have a comparison between the reports? So how are they each performing against each other? And so being able to do this contrast and explore the real use case. So that, you know, of course that's fun, but the real use case is for our scenario. I think a lot of you know that we work with franchises, and whenever we're working with franchises, it's really nice to be able to see from a perspective of how are they doing, how are they performing. And one of the places that yesterday my mind immediately went was, I want to be able to take all of those franchises that we work with, pull them into LiveFlow, and then start looking at trends. What am I seeing? Is it state specific? Is it maybe here we are, we're coming up on summertime. Would this be a really good time for my clients that are in that franchise to start advertising? Because maybe there's a trend that there's lots of people who are wanting their fences fixed, or they're wanting backyard patios fixed. So being able to analyze a group of QuickBooks Online files against each other would be very, very fascinating and helpful in my franchise scenario.
You know, and the other use case I just thought of, Liz, is even in our firms. Like if we're working with, you know, say you have a whole bunch of dentists, right, that you're working with, and you want to start benchmarking that data against your entire client, like all your clients that are dentists, right? Couldn't you pull them down and then start to come up with industry averages so that you could benchmark each of your clients against the others? I think that's really interesting too. So I think there's lots of different use cases for that. You know,
to add to this one, Heather, and this, like we have someone saying that they created like a mega dashboard that has other clients grouped so that they can see the trends. So for instance, imagine you work with restaurants and you work in a particular area of New York City, and you want to be known as the best account who specializes on restaurants in New York City, like in Queens, for example. So that allows you to do that. You will have all of the clients lined up and all of the trends in real time. And you basically build your name and people know you as the pro in that particular area.
yeah, I love that. There's just so many opportunities here for sure.
Well, and we were talking about being that advisor role. So what all does that mean? And one of those could be if you were somebody who was specializing in a particular industry, and then being able to collect all of that information and genuinely be able to tell somebody benchmarking wise, how are you performing against other people in your industry? You don't have to share who, but it's just fascinating to be able to from an advisory perspective, weigh in on maybe there's some little changes that you could suggest, and that would make a huge bottom line difference.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, also when you have things like, you know, like the employee retention, right? Those credits, being able to create something with LiveFlow that would be able to pull in different client data to identify you know, what clients would be eligible for that could be really useful too. So there's just so many use cases that like I think we could probably brainstorm all probably for a week or more, not stop. Really cool things. So yeah.
Well, so if I go back over to thinking about all of the tools that are available to us. So if I come over here and I look at, I want to create a report. Let's go ahead and just click back in there. One of the templates that I really liked was the AR aging summary. So over inside of our area where we can grab already created reports, or we can come over here and say there's a template library. And with this template library, you've got lots of options. So my head went into, I want to check out live AR. So I can click into live AR and I can see that there's this template that's available for you to be able to start building your own AR dashboard. So here's the actual information, and this is the template. So you can take this template and then put in your numbers with the live data, and then you've got your own dashboard. And this might be the part that you say, I want to publish this to the web and then share that with my client. But it was really fun, and it was very easy to be able to replicate this template and take it with its rows and columns and formulas and start to play over here. And whenever I did some copy and paste, it's smart that the transfer of data is smart. So it automatically knew where I wanted to go in and grab information. I was able to create my 30, 60, 90 days and over columns. So how I wanted my AR to be viewed. And then I was able to come down here and populate some of my current inside of this field, which that's the area that I really took and started to play with. So being able to, from a perspective of how current are my receivables, then these formulas are some that you can grab and you can start to create your own dashboards, which are super fun. So now I'm able to see who are my top customers. So who comes to us quite a bit. Professor Snape, he really likes us. He's digging all of the things that we've got available to, maybe like, you know, a lot of the different potions and herbs that we've got. And then maybe we've got some open accounts receivable, and it's from somebody that we know we're never going to be able to collect on. So maybe being able to see this list of numbers and being able to come down here and see how much does each customer owe us. And these auto populate. So you can come through whenever you're creating those templates and you can say, do you want it to be just your top 3 customers? Do you want it to be your top 10 performing customers? Do you want it to be your worst performing customers? So there's formulas that you can tweak as you're going through the setup of these dashboards that then you could customize. And that would help you maybe in a scenario where you know that this person is no longer available to pay their invoice, so it's time to write that off. I had a lot of fun playing with these templates, and they were really easy to use. You also have some really nice videos that if I come over here and I look at how to use this template, there's a step-by-step guide that really walks you through, better than I could do, walks you through each phase of moving over the template into your live client information. So that way, whenever you have it set up, you could do the exact same thing. You can make sure that it's on a schedule that you, let's say we're going to manage reports, which any of those options that you choose really take you into this same area. It's just which tab do you open? And then that piece to be able to say, go ahead and refresh now, or if I wanted to be able to say however often. So there's pieces there's pieces inside of this. I'm not really sure what you would call this widget, but it's definitely got a lot of tools that are available.
You know, it's really remarkable, Liz, because I have not seen you. I know you really well. I haven't seen you get this excited about an app in a really long time.
Because it has so many use cases,
right?
It really, really does. I mean, it's a piece of being able to automate some of our mundane tasks. that is exciting to me. And then also, not only can I automate some of the mundane tasks by pulling in Zapier or pulling in some notifications that are sent out, but I also can add true, let's call it true value. You know, I know that that's a phrase that's used a lot, but I really can. I can start to be able to talk to my client and share information with them that's meaningful. And because these are formulas because we're working in a Google Sheets environment, we can start to customize however our client needs us to be able to customize the data so it's useful to them. It is exciting. I know it is.
It's exciting, and it's also, I will say, from using it for the past few months, impressive how much you guys have iterated on the product and developed new features along the way. So that's one of my most exciting things with using apps is like, what's the next, like what's coming out next, right? Like,
Right.
what's the roadmap look like, right? Do you have any random questions? Do you have any plans of like for user submitted templates? Because I think that could be a really cool
Exactly.
thing for, like,
Exactly.
communities. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing that started to just basically pick up. So customers come and say like, okay, do you have this template? Sometimes we don't have it. So the one that I shared was actually developed by our customer, Tanya Hiltz. So she wanted to see her, the one I'm talking about is classes and month. So basically all of the classes back to back, consolidated on the month level. So we didn't have that. We had the one with the switchers. So basically you can switch months. Let's say I want to see all of my classes back to back in January, then in February and something else. But she wanted to see them through the entire year. And she was like, no, that's how my client looks at numbers. That's what I want. And we developed it together with her. And I think it made her so happy that we listened to her and we built it together and explained how it all worked. So she started to share this template. So it kind of gives me an idea of creating a community where people can share ideas. We haven't done it yet, really. We haven't started like anything on Facebook or I don't know, like any other platforms, but I think it makes sense. It's in the air. And just now I saw so many use cases just appearing because you started to brainstorm ideas. And like the most favorite part of mine is that everyone keeps saying, oh, let me play with Lifeline. And I see like the product picks up over the weekend where people just start exploring things. And it's like, what's going on? Like, go out, spend the time with your families, do something else. Like, why do you spend your time on the product? But to me, it's really amazing to see that people feel joy of doing things in the product rather than thinking like, oh, it's like legacy software I don't want to touch. I think it's the most pleasant part of my job to build something that people really love and share. So yeah, I think the community thing will come. We just need to find some time to get the ball rolling on the community side.
No, that's fantastic. I think, I think have you thought about integrating with other applications too, like bringing in data from other sources?
Yeah, of course. I think it's quite apparent. People ask about Zero. That's the next big thing. And like we have like a board with all of the feature requests, and essentially under each feature we have people who requested that, and like we assign points that helps us to move these tickets down the pipeline. And Zero is the most popular thing, so that's very heavy compared to like QuickBooks. It's also a big thing, but yeah, it's in our plans. The next big thing, if we're talking about our plans, is banks. So people want to see their live bank feeds, right, in Google Sheets. They don't want to, go in and out. So there is a provider which we partnered with called Plaid. You might have heard about them. They have both US, Canadian, European, UK banks. And it's really helpful because you can just plug them in and just have all of your bank feeds in Google Sheets all in real time. Because I know there's like a lag on the QuickBooks side when they sync bank data. So that's another thing that we need to build.
Yeah, well, that's interesting.
That's
I mean,
super
and
cool.
if you do that, then there's a whole nother, opens up a whole nother, opportunities for automation. So it's great.
There were some questions related to sharing permissions. And so I thought, yes, there's some features that are inside of Google that you can publish to the web, Another thing that's down here inside of Google Sheets itself is to come over here and say, what if you wanted to protect a sheet? And this might be, maybe you do want to go ahead and share the Google Sheet instead of having it published to the web, but you still want to have a range to be able to say, what is it that you want to essentially lock? And so maybe it's something like this that you would go ahead and say, I want to lock my profit and loss. Maybe it's okay if they play around with some of these other things, but if I wanted to set permissions, then I could customize this and I could say only me, or I could say, yep, so only I want to be able to be the one that can customize it, or my team would be the ones who can customize it. And so now I can actually share with the safety net of knowing that my client is not going to be able to edit.
Yeah.
The other thing that we were talking about earlier is being able to play with the data and create multiple different customized types of reports. And so I haven't tried it yet, but I'm wondering if you duplicate these, does the duplication work to keep the formula?
I don't think so, to be honest, because we need to pull this data and connect it to this particular sheet. So essentially, when the sheet, not the sheet, the tab is created, we make a call to QuickBooks and request QuickBooks to give us this data and pipe this data in real time. If you make a copy, it's just a replica and it's not the original connection. So I'm afraid you just need to go to extensions, create report, and create the exact same report, which is totally possible.
I still think that that's useful, because then I could come over here and I could say, well, what if I just want to archive it? So I could create some type of archive to save for later. And that way I've got that information, it's frozen in time, and I can even hide it because maybe it's a private.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's lots of, because you're in Google Sheets, there's lots of customizations that you can do here.
Definitely.
It's fun.
It is fun.
Yep. You definitely have some fun things that are happening inside of LiveFlow. Oh, shucks.
So do we have slides on how to get started and all that good stuff, Liz?
So as far as getting started, let's drop some, I'm going to stop sharing. Let's drop some links inside of chat in order to share where to get started.
I can throw them on Facebook too.
So one place that we might recommend people go to is apps.com and then to LiveFlow. So I'm going to populate that link. And then I also think it would be nice to share the direct website. So here's the apps.com link. And then if you wanted to go straight over to LiveFlow's website landing page, and here's that inside of chat. The other thing that we have is we have a discount. So
ooh, we like
special just for us. Yeah. So from current slide, let me come over here and I'm going to go back to slides for a second. And really, Heather, the reason that we don't have a whole lot of connection slides is it is so simple that once you get over there and you start to.
No, that's exactly what I was asking, is where do people go to get started? I mean, getting started is easy. It's just stopping yourself from like ideation overload, right?
Totally.
What are you going to do with it?
What are you going to do with it? You got lots of possibilities.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so I'm hopping over into slides. And one thing that we didn't do is we didn't drink.
We didn't drink. How did we not drink?
So excited. My ice is
so excited she forgot to drink.
I had some really nice big square ice cubes in there that are gone.
They're gone. Oh my, that's hilarious.
So let me share what it was. I shared my pretty blue drink, but I didn't tell you what was in it. So this is fun. I like the color of it that matches our LiveFlow logo. But the vodka, that's what mine has heavy in it. There's some heavy on the ice cubes that used to be there.
Nice.
But here's what we went through today. So I want to make sure that we covered everything here and connecting multiple companies in real time. So that part's really easy. And then to be able to switch back and forth, importing various reports. And so that's where we were taken through how to create the profit and loss by month, or profit and loss or balance sheet, or those various reports that we could choose from the drop down. We did a lot of editing. So everything that we did to customize those reports was editing those live reports. The drilling down into those reports, that's where we were able to have that option to say, we want to know more about where this number came from. What was the drivers of that, that sum of numbers? And we were able to see that inside of LiveFlow instead of needing to click over into a separate program. And then the LiveFlow templates, those are fun. I would definitely recommend going over the LiveFlow templates, because that's where you have the ability to do the graphs and the charts, and you know, that gets really fun in that area.
That's awesome.
Okay, the discount, here it is.
Awesome.
So 20% off the first 3 months.
And there's a 7-day trial, right? So people can, you're going to get hooked.
Yep,
I mean, that's
yep.
what
There's a
happens.
free trial. Yep, and you
Yeah.
get all of our support. So something that we've heard about is that sometimes software companies don't really pay attention to people. We do. We're a small startup and we do care. So please let us know if you have any questions. We are available via Zoom, calls, any other methods like SMS and Slack. Just let us know if you want to explore LiveFlow and set up your own custom dashboard.
That's awesome. You guys should consider, I know a couple of our app partners that have started Slack channels for their users where they can collaborate. You guys should consider doing that with your customers, because there's a lot of chatter that goes on in those types of communities on, you know, feature updates, ideas.
Yep, totally.
Awesome. Look how pretty this is.
It's beautiful.
I love it. I love it. So I'm getting ready to go to our next slide that's really related to questions. Heather, this would be a great time to launch the poll. Do you want
Yes,
to
ma'am.
populate that poll?
Absolutely.
Thanks. And then, you know, here's where I would also say, as far as using LiveFlow, we went through quite a few scenarios. And that's why we had an extra long episode today, is we intentionally wanted to build in time to allow us to go through this deep dive of all of the features. There's so much that we explored, but really, I think that we just kind of scratched the surface.
I agree. And the feedback we're getting in the chat is people were really, really appreciated the deep dive. And it was really fun. It's really fun to go in and have enough time to play with it too, to kind of explore as a group. I really enjoyed it a lot. So
I agree. And, you know, anytime that we're using a tool that's easy to adopt, that's like a big sigh of relief, because there's a lot of solutions out there, but they're really complex.
mm-hmm.
But being able to plug in LiveFlow and to start playing was really easy. And, you know, it did create this burst of energy and ideas that are really useful. So our clients definitely, whenever I met with one of my franchisees today, I shared with him this idea of taking all of the reports and consolidating them inside of LiveFlow. So I went ahead and showed him the program. And I told him, I said, you know, the thing that we could do is, in a specific state, they already have meetings that take place monthly. And so we would be able to take all of their data, compile it into one source, and then be able to talk about, you know, what are the different people who are, you know, in that state doing, and what are they seeing? And he was super excited about it. So they're already meeting, that this would be a chance to be able to consolidate those reports easily.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. If you didn't vote and you meant to, please do that right now. And I'm going to go ahead and close it out. All right. Awesome.
And then before we go to the next slide, I want to just ask you, Anita, what are you seeing with trends? I know we had talked about profit and loss and cash flow, but are you seeing adoption of certain reports or feature requests?
Yep, I think so. Well, I saw that the most popular templates are budget versus actuals and consolidated Pnl. I think this is something many people struggle with. And LiveFlow is really helpful when you want just to automate it once and forever and don't do it ever again. So that's something that I've seen. What else? Yeah, I love as I mentioned, I love the initiative to come up with users' own templates just to come and say, like, look, we need to solve this, let's say for B2B SaaS products. How can we do this? And we just build it together. So my favorite part is that people are really creative and they come up with their own solutions that they can usually use with LiveFlow, like you did with Zapier just a few moments ago.
Well, so that's interesting feedback. And I love the templates area. I think that that's a really fun place to be able to say, I want to create this and I want to have these different dashboards. And it was very easy. That there was a nice video that went along with the step-by-step. So much appreciated. And I also wonder, so Corey, thank you for coming on today and sharing that template that you've created. That was really cool.
Happy to share this too. Yeah, happy to share it with others.
Well, and that consolidated report is really, really nice because in one place, you can almost have a dashboard, essentially what you built on the LiveFlow platform is being able to have this dashboard that, publish that to the web or send that over to a client. And they've got everything that they need to see visually in one area. So
it feeds them information, right? That's the beauty of LiveFlow is you can, it's the push instead of the pull.
Right.
It is the push instead of pull. Yeah, I like that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Can I use it as a quote? Can I put it on the website?
It is. It's very visual, isn't it?
It is good.
Yeah, that's a good
Very
one.
cool.
So we were super special, Corey, and you shared the template with all of the Happy Hour viewers. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
And it
Thank
also
you.
makes me wonder too, the templates that are inside of LiveFlow, are those templates that have been built by other LiveFlow users that are shared, or is that something that LiveFlow is seeing a need for this, maybe some calls or requests for it and build the templates off of that?
Yeah, so the majority are ours, just a few came from customers, but we actually have a few coming in because, well, people just shared them with us and we're not able to build templates at the same time as building the product. So we need to release a few new templates, which I think is very exciting. So yeah, we started the whole thing and then people basically came back to us saying that they have this idea and they want to improve this template with, as I mentioned, like Tanya, she wanted with her classes, looking one to each other and the month on top. So yeah, people I think see that something is possible and you can build something on top. And obviously they know way more use cases than we do because they run these businesses, they help businesses thrive and they know how to present and show these numbers so that businesses understand them. That's really important. And we try to learn from them. Of course, I think what we'll do later, we'll just brand these templates as someone who created them. So as Corey mentioned, this flash report, it can be branded as Growth Lab. It's not ours. It came from Growth Lab, and that's truly theirs. But other people can also benefit from it.
That reminds me of, we used to, in QuickBooks, we had chart of account templates. And so as a community, we could share these templates with everyone and it would say, Seth David created this chart of accounts template. And so Hector Garcia had created a template. And it's like, you could go and you could use that template and you could suddenly tap into their genius and you could see the kind of ideas that they have and be able to, grow off of that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's like, why did they get rid of that?
I know. It makes me sad too.
Yeah.
Well, I've had a lot of fun. I've had a really good time hanging out. And this episode is going to be on our website for everybody to go and look at and view later to have access to. We will also put the recording on YouTube. And I would say, don't forget that we have Facebook Lounge that you can come and hang out with us. And then also, if you want to visit the sponsors website, we have the branded, really pretty happy hour landing page. Super cool. And then upcoming episodes, we have Ignition next week. So here's where we're going to be able to talk about the templates that have been created and also have our after tax celebration.
We're going to celebrate all things spring and tax being over and being together soon at conferences. It's going to be awesome. And prizes.
Keep on forgetting about the prizes. I love free stuff.
It'll be super fun.
Yeah.
Well, this was amazing. Thank you so much, Anita. And thank you, Corey, for joining us. This has just been awesome. This is fantastic. So I just love, like what Liz said, I love the fact that people can just start using it. Like there's not, it's just so easy.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I really, really appreciate it. And I feel happy for being here. Thank you.
Well, we'd love to have you come on again in a bit.
Yeah, let's see what we'll have
on.
by then. Yeah, in a couple of months. More integrations, more templates. Let's see.
Awesome.
Thank you.